Often we hit rock bottom not because fate has been unfair, but because we've forgotten how valuable we once were. Today's story recounts a beggar's journey from being ignored by the world to regaining his own respect. In a moment of change, he stopped begging and began living anew. If you're also searching for the meaning of life, please subscribe to my blog, because every person who regains faith in themselves is confronting fate head-on. The wind at the train station was cold, carrying the smell of rust and gasoline. A wrinkled beggar huddled in a corner of the platform. His name was Lao Lin. Over a decade ago, he lost his job and his family. He told himself that fate had abandoned him. So he sat here every day, relying on charity. That day, he raised his bowl as usual. "Please have pity on me." Passengers hurried by until a neatly dressed man stopped. The man stared at him for a few seconds, then asked, "You beg for money every day. Do you have anything to give?" Lao Lin was stunned, a bit stunned. I have nothing." The man shook his head. "You're wrong. No one is completely without anything unless they give up believing in themselves." But this time, he didn't immediately reach out to beg. He looked around and saw a cluster of small purple flowers swaying in the wind beside the railroad tracks. They were ordinary flowers, yet they stubbornly grew from the cracks in the rocks. Suddenly he felt those flowers were like himself. Perhaps he could give something to others? So, he picked a few flowers. When someone gave him money, he smiled and said, "Thank you. These flowers are for you." That day, he heard a sincere thank you for the first time. A little girl accepted the flowers and smiled happily. At that moment, Lao Lin's heart felt as if the world had embraced him for the first time in a long time. From then on, he went out to look for flowers every day. He no longer simply asked for money. Instead, he offered smiles and flowers. Gradually, people grew fond of him. A woman who frequently took the train said to him, "Your flowers are so beautiful. They brighten my mood every day." Lao Lin smiled and said, "Actually, your smile makes me feel stronger too." He discovered that the warmth between people can actually ignite each other. A few months later, he began using his savings to buy flower seeds. He planted rows of flowers by the platform. Later, he simply set up a flower stall. A year later, he had saved enough money to rent a small shop. A wooden sign hung on the doorway, "Smiling Flower Shop." Once again, "Are you the beggar from that day?" the man asked in surprise. Lao Lin smiled and nodded. "That day, I simply forgot who I was. Now I remember I'm not a beggar, I'm a person of value." Sometimes, we think we're poor because we have no money in our pockets. But true poverty comes from no longer believing in what we can give. This world will not reject anyone who strives to give. As long as you believe you still have value, you will never be a beggar. True wealth isn't about how much you possess, but about what you are willing to give to warm others. You're not a beggar. You've simply forgotten who you are. Remember to rediscover the self who believes, gives, and shines. When you rediscover yourself, destiny will rediscover you too.